In the last video, we started talking about cognates. Cognates, remember, are words that are either the same or basically the same in both English and Spanish. There are one-off cognates like hotel, which in Spanish is just el hotel, but then there are also cognate patterns like the OR words. Words that end with OR in English are usually exactly the same in Spanish, you just have to say them the Spanish way. The word actor in Spanish is el actor, exactly the same. Then we mainly focused on the TION to CION words like nation. In English, nation ends in TION, so in Spanish it's the same word, but the TION becomes CION. So nation in Spanish is nación, la nación. What's cool about these cognate patterns is, once you learn one member of the group, you instantly know them all, because they all follow the same pattern. So in the last lesson, if you just looked over the word list, you instantly knew about 50 new words. Simply knowing these cognates exist and realizing that you already know them really is more than half the battle. So today, we're going to continue with the cognate patterns, and when you're done with this video, you'll know another 50 words, this time, verbs. Hola, soy Jordan, and this is a Spanish Quickie. Fast, easy Spanish lessons from somebody who speaks your language. Okay, this group is very similar to the last group. In the last group, we took an English noun, removed the TION at the end, and added CION to get the Spanish noun. Well, this time, we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna remove the ATE at the end of English verbs and replace it with just AR to get AR verbs in Spanish. Like with the word activate, or said better, to activate. For this group, we take off the ATE at the end of activate and replace it with AR. So to activate in Spanish is activar. Pretty simple, right? Now, I do want to give you a pointer. When you're making flashcards, you should write the verbs out in English with the word to, like TO. So in this case, write to activate on one side, not just activate, and activar on the other side. It doesn't come into play much with this group specifically, but with the word act in English, that can be a verb or a noun. To differentiate, it's best to always write verbs in their infinitive form. So if you see just act on the flashcard, you know that's the noun, and if you see to act, you'll know it's the verb. For the record, act in Spanish, the noun is el acto, and to act, the verb is actuar. But back to the task at hand. Celebrate works just like activate does. See how celebrate ends in ATE? Well, drop the ATE and replace it with an AR. To celebrate in Spanish is celebrar. Nice and easy, no? Calculate is another example. Take off the ATE at the end of calculate, replace it with an AR, and you get calcular. To calculate is calcular. Elevate is elevar. Same thing, ATE to AR, but other than that, those are the same words. To elevate is elevar. Participate is another textbook example of this. ATE to AR, and to participate is participar. Now, please don't stress yourself out trying to remember these rules, like TION to CION or ATE to AR. That's not what this is all about. The only reason I'm even telling you about these patterns is because it's helpful to see a bunch of words all at once that all follow the same pattern. But the goal really is practice them so you just know them. So practice that activate is activar, not that you drop the ATE and replace it with an AR. To activate is activar. It's that simple. Once you practice enough that to activate is activar, and to celebrate is celebrar, and to participate is participar, once you really have those down, it'll be hard to not know that to operate is operar, even if you've never seen that word before. Before we move on to some spelling changes and interesting examples, I want to point out one more regular ATE to AR verb, to create. When you drop the ATE and replace it with AR, you get crear. That's it. The word for to create in Spanish is crear. I just remember that word sticking out at the beginning. It's not weird, just distinctive. Do you agree? Crear. I like that word. Don't confuse it with creer, which means to believe. Okay, just like always, and you might not understand this if you didn't see the last video, go watch the last video, you have to watch out for double letters in English that only make one sound. So for example, communicate. That has two M's next to each other, but as far as my ears go, they only make one M sound. Ca-mu-nicate. That's one M. So in Spanish, you drop one of the M's to give you comunicar. To communicate in Spanish is comunicar, just one M. Same with illuminate. To illuminate illuminate in Spanish is illuminar. Take off the ATE, replace it with AR, then drop one of those double L's. Because even though there are two L's, they only make one L sound. To illuminate in Spanish is illuminar. Now, here's an interesting one. To narrate. Drop the ATE, replace it with AR, and you get narrar. To narrate is narrar. On this one, to be honest, I'm not really sure if the double R in narrate makes one or two R sounds. Is it narrate or narrate? I don't know. What matters is this verb has two R's in both English and Spanish. To narrate is narrar. But regardless of the reason in this case, please know that anything is possible out there with this double letter thing. Usually, when a double letter only makes one sound, you drop one of them. But there are exceptions both ways. Sometimes the double letter makes one sound, but you keep them both anyway. To narrate might be an example of this. I only hear one R sound really, but it still has two R's in Spanish. I don't see any better examples in this group. But going the other way, accelerate is a good example. In English, the two C's in accelerate clearly make two sounds. Accelerate. But in Spanish, the word still only has one C. So, acelerar. To accelerate with two C's and two C sounds in Spanish is acelerar. Only one C and one C sound. This is the exception for sure. The point of showing you narrar and acelerar is so you know that anything can and does happen out there. You just have to memorize these exceptions as you come across them. Okay, we're not done yet. To terminate. See that ATE? Change it to AR and you get terminar. No other change is necessary. To terminate in Spanish is terminar. But here's the thing. They use the word terminar in Spanish way more than we use the word terminate in English. A lot more. In fact, I'd say terminar is the go-to translation for to finish and for to end. So when we'd say to finish or to end or to terminate in English, they usually say terminar in Spanish. Cool? Terminar is a very common verb in Spanish, but so is necesitar, which is the Spanish equivalent of to necessitate. But necesitar is just like terminar in that it's used way more in Spanish than necessitate is in English. They usually use necesitar for to need. If you need to say necessitate in Spanish, you can use this verb too, but you'll hear necesitar used all the time in Spanish for to need. I can't really think of a better, more direct way to say to need. I remember to me, both those words, terminar and necesitar, really stuck out at the beginning. Because it was so interesting to me, they used one of our secondary words as their primary word. These are two of the examples that stick out the most actually. I'll go over a lot more in future videos. Okay, that's it for today. There are about 50 words on the word list below, and they're all good, common words you can use in real life. Or at least I can. I base this all from how I talk. I try not to use too fancy of words. So if the word is on the list below, that means I've said it in real life, or at least I'm willing to. And don't forget, we're going over these cognate patterns because they're basically free words, but just basically. You should at least peruse the word list below real quickly so you can see which words exist. Knowing they exist is the key with these. But if you really want to get them down, I suggest you make flashcards and practice them with the flashcard strategy, or load them puppies up into your favorite flashcard app and do it that way. Below this video, you'll find the word list in PDF format, but you'll also see the Anki file and a text file for most other flashcard apps. And make sure you're signed up for the Gringo Espanol newsletter. Not only will I email you whenever I post a new video, you won't have to count on Facebook or YouTube to tell you, but you'll get instant access to videos and discounts not available to the public. That's gringoespanol.com/newsletter. In the next video, we'll cover another cognate pattern, this time mostly adjectives. Then after that, we'll change it up a bit. I'll show you a cool way to make a noun out of any adjective, something we really can't do in English. Then after that, for the first time ever, I'm gonna let you inside my brain. Don't miss any of those videos. Make sure you're signed up for the Gringo Espanol newsletter. Then I'll see you next time. Hasta luego. Adios, amigo.